Welcome to Art Talk Tuesday. We are at episode 30. Believe it or not, we have done 30 episodes if we count today. I can't believe it. It's been a great year. I've really enjoyed doing these videos. I was pretty nervous about it at first, but as I began to do them more and more, I began to get more comfortable, and I really started enjoying them. I really enjoy hearing your comments and getting your feedback, knowing sometimes that some of you are actually getting something from these and sharing them on your feed. So please continue to do that. Please continue to give me a like, a love, whatever you want to do, and give me your feedback. I want to hear from you. As I said last week, we're starting into the yoga series that I created. So the main body of the series is 15 pieces that are done in watercolor, but I wanted to show the 5 pieces that I did for the series also that are in acrylic, and these are large pieces. So we've been kind of smaller format with the black and white when we did when we pray. So I wanted to do something, give you something bigger to look at with a little bit more color to start off, and then we'll go to the main parts of the series. All 5 of the acrylic images were painted during live painting, or at least initiated during live painting session with Black to Yoga. And then I would bring them home and spend another week, sometimes 2, depending on how busy I am, to get them completed. We jump right in with this piece here. We can see the dimensions are 30 by 30. So we have a square format. I don't particularly like square formats, but I had these canvases and I didn't want them to go to waste. And so I tried to figure out a way that I could make that format a little bit more dynamic. Squares are a little boring to me, so I wanted to kind of beef it up, juice it up a little bit. So that's what I tried to do with this piece. And we'll jump right in. Everything is in acrylic. With this piece, I also began experimenting using more slow drying acrylics, because acrylics tend to dry really fast. I don't like oils. It's a little too messy for me. They take too long to dry. I'm so used to watercolor because I primarily consider myself a watercolorist. But at least with the regular acrylics, they dry relatively quickly. So with these extended dry acrylics, I'm really able to get a happy medium. So I think I'm going to be using those a lot more when I do acrylic work. So this is kind of a mixture of regular acrylic and the slow drying ones. And what we've got here, the name of this pose is entitled Mermaid Pose, and the Sanskrit is called Rajakapotasana. That's the best I can pronounce it. I'm sure I probably killed it, but you get the general idea. So we'll just stick with mermaid pose to keep things simple. The model for this pose, her name is Kirsten. She's one of the teachers, instructors with Black to Yoga. I hope, Kirsten, that you don't find this offensive, but Kirsten is tall and she's kind of leggy, slightly shorter, smaller torso, longer legs, and I wanted to catch that about her when I was creating this piece. So we jump right in and begin to look at it. The first thing you'll notice is the color. The palette is pretty bright. And one of the things I've done to try to make this square format a little more exciting is by using a more interesting palette. Because you see here, I have what we would basically call complementary colors. Definitely here in the figure, you see you've got blue and orange, and those are complementary colors on the color wheel. Also, the blues and the darker colors tend to recede, and then the yellows, oranges, reds are brighter colors, they tend to push forward. So I've already started here in the background with this push-pull between the colors. So this is bringing you out, this is bringing you back. I also did some molding here in the background because with these figures, I wanted to make sure that they were grounded, that people, when they looked at them, they got a sense of them being grounded into the surface that they're working on, because that's a very important aspect of yoga, is being grounded as you begin to set up for your poses. And that connection to the earth is very important. And so I began to play around here modeling. As you see, I'm giving the illusion, creating the illusion here that we're going back into space, like she's sitting on her yoga mat or some other surface, because we don't want the figure to look like it's just floating here in the middle of nowhere, particularly when we have a square format. We definitely don't want that look. So I wanted to make sure the figure seemed grounded. So I used the darker blues and purples here. And you see I've just put in some kind of purple highlights to give that sense of the figure sitting actually back into space. And then once again, I did what I like to do, is got more graphic. And you see in the upper part of the background that I've got the brighter color, so it's pulling forward, pushing forward. So you get that push and pull sense once again. and this is a little bit more flat, and this is more painterly for me. I usually don't let that. I usually try to do things a little bit more tightly rendered, as you can see, but I try to be a little bit playful with this background. It's a lot more painterly. When I use that term, I mean from the standpoint of, you can see brush strokes in here. You can see where colors are just kind of, mixing a little bit more quick work, as you can see. Definitely differentiate here the colors, and so when you can see evidence of that, that's considered a more painterly technique. So that's what I'm doing here with the background. You see I've got this bright yellow here that is actually centering the figure, and not only is it in the middle, but it's also highlighting the figure here. So we're giving emphasis, some greater emphasis to this area of the figure. So one of the reasons that I did that, as I said, Kristen is very, very leggy. So when I was working with the figure, I wanted to emphasize those legs. So you see the legs are long, they're slightly larger than this portion of the torso. See, I made the hips, this kind of hip area is bigger, but then we go in here by the ribs, and then we come out. And then also I made the head bigger, because in this particular piece, I wanted to emphasize the gaze. Often in yoga, you hear them talk about find your drishti, or where should your drishti be. And drishti is basically a point of focus, a focal point. And when you're going into a pose, one of the things, particularly if it's a balancing pose, this one isn't, but particularly with a balancing pose, you want to find a point of focus to focus on, so that as you look coming up on one foot or whatever you're doing, it helps you to keep your balance. Also, when you find that drishti, that is your focal point, because in the pose, we want to relax. You want to go in, but you don't want to struggle, you don't want to strain. You want to find that place of relaxation in the midst of that movement, in the midst of that stress. And we can take that over, it carries into other aspects of our lives. When we go into situations and other things, we tend to look for that. Where's my focus, and where can I find a place to relax? When I was online, they used to say a lot, relax, but don't be lax. I'll let you figure that out. You think about that for a while on your own. And so that's what we're looking at here. She's got a really good drishti here. You see her eyes are looking off at whatever point she's looking at. She's focused, and yet you can see that she is relaxed. She's not straining. You don't see any evidence here in my rendering of the muscles being strained. Sometimes you see people when they're straining, their muscles begin to shake, etc., etc., etc. You don't want that. You either need to back off, or you need to find that place where you can relax, refocus, etc., etc., etc. So she's always very calm, cool, and collected. So I really wanted to kind of emphasize that here. So you see the head is slightly larger, legs are slightly larger, and that's what I'm working with here. Also, obviously this is not a completely realistic render. You see I've taken a lot of liberty with making things very round. I wanted to give this kind of feeling of it being voluptuous, of being voluminous in these movements. And I think that this kind of making things very round, you see it feels round, it feels round. I wanted to do that in order to give a sense of there being some real depth and to create some movement. These lines kind of move you around through this figure. This shape in itself moves you, so you can enter in any way you want, okay? And then I've got the loop, overlapping loop here with the vectors of lines coming in and out. And also you see with the clothes anyway, I've got a lot of folds here in this shirt. So it's a lot of movement. It's, even though the figure is actually sitting still, and we know that she's sitting grounded into the ground on this figure, and she seems relaxed, there is dynamism going on here. And that's what we want internally also, I think, when we're doing yoga. If there are any yogis who are watching this, please let me know if I'm wrong. Type me a message or something and you can correct me. But we want to find that place of stillness within this dynamism. And that's what I was trying to catch with this piece. And just some modeling on the figure here. I always like to give folks a little extra, jewelry, little lipstick, earrings, just, something I like to do. If you look here closely on these, you see she's got fingernail, toenail polish. And really just creating that dynamism in the piece, these moving, flowing movements. So even though the figure is still and grounded, there is this dynamism. So that's basically what I'm trying to do with this piece. If you have any questions, ideas, thoughts, etc., like I said, you can hit me up. They're available on my website at damonpowell.com. You can get the original, which I have here, or you can get prints of this image. I believe the prints start around $25. I could be wrong, but you can look on the site and see. The original of this piece is valued at $2,500, just as the one last week was. So if you're interested, hit me up, or you can just buy it directly off the website. Hope all is well. Peace.